Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here at Medientage München and on your screens across the world. My name is Emmanuel Rothstein. I'm a media executive, programmer and documentary filmmaker based here in Munich for A&E Networks Germany. I am very honored to present you tonight here in person at Medientage München a very important panel on press freedom. Titled Journalistinnen im Fadenkreuz, meaning journalists under attack, in collaboration with the Hamburg Foundation for the Politically Persecuted. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a free press is not a privilege, but an organic necessity in a great society. Once said Walter Lippmann, one of the most influential journalists of our time. Yes, indeed, a free press is not a luxury. A free press informs, criticizes, stimulates debate, and holds those accountable who are in power. Well, especially in times of global resurgence of populism and nationalism, in times of global pandemic, in times of migration crisis, and in times of climate emergency, the fight for facts, the fight for truth is more important than ever before. Freedom of expression and independence of the media without censorship and harassment are the basic ingredients for any democracy. But what is the state of free press? Should we be alarmed? Or does globalization, the plethora of media outlets, the apparent democratization of the media through many alternative sources, safeguard objectivity and freedom of expression anywhere in the world? Let us find out and throw a spotlight on two extraordinary champions of free press. On my left, here on text, on my right, we've got Ellen Tordesillas. She's an award-winning investigative journalist, writer and columnist from the Philippines, who has a long career from the days of Ferdinand Marcos until the Philippines of today under Duterte. Ellen is a trustee and writer of Vera Files, Latin for Truth, a non-profit media organization that undertakes in-depth reporting on current issues and does fact-checking to fight disinformation in the Philippines. On my far right, I'm pleased to introduce you award-winning independent photojournalist Tatiana Tkachova. She graduated from Belarusian State University of Culture and Arts in 2014 and from the Academy of Documentary, Photography and Photojournalism in St. Petersburg in 2016. She teaches photojournalism and, most importantly, her work or her professional activities are devoted to personal long-term projects. They are focused on women's rights, particularly on topics of gender, violence, conflict, and resistance. In 2020, she won the prestigious World Press Photo Award. She works as an independent photojournalist for Belarusian as well as international media. Both journalists are currently guests of the Hamburg Foundation of the Politically Persecuted. If you both allow, I would like to start with you, Ellen. And as an introduction, you have brought us a short tape to give us a short glimpse of the current situation, but also gives us an historical context.
The Philippines is a country in Southeast Asia of over 100 million freedom-loving people. In September 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos placed the country under martial law, curtailing civil liberties and arresting political opponents, including media. In February 1986, Filipinos ousted the dictator Ferdinand Marcos in a bloodless revolution hailed as People Power. Philippine democracy is once again under threat under the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte. Some 30,000 have been killed in his brutal war on drugs since he came to power in 2016.
journalism, stop journalism in this country.
Journalists are terrorized.
Just because you have the power of press freedom, the issue here is not press freedom.
Mahirap kasi itong nga sabihin mo ako, pinapatay ko yung media. Oh, why should I do it? For what purpose?
You have seen a lot in the Philippines over the last 40 years as a journalist. Do you have the impression that time was turned back, that we see a resurgence of the days of the dictator Marcos?
Yes, in fact, there's a feeling of deja vu with what is going on in the country, like especially for myself who was already a journalist during Marcos' time, which was more than 40 years ago. But the big difference is that during Marcos' time, he declared martial law. He put the country under the military rule. Under Duterte, he has not declared martial law, but in a way, his kind of authoritarianism is much more insidious because he has destroyed the constitution without even, and put power into the military and the police without, under the veneer of democracy, which I think it's much more harmful. And you have all the killings under the name of war on drugs, and you have more than thousands of people being killed.
So are you saying that under the umbrella or the facade on war on drugs, are there many journalists being targeted as well?
Yeah, I think the only institutions that are standing up to Duterte now are the church and media. And independent media, Duterte hates independent media because independent media brings out the truth, which is what autocrats hate. Yeah.
Absolutely. They rule by lies, of course. The whole system of ruling is based on lies.
Yes.
You founded a couple of years ago a fact-checking agency by the name of Vera. What is Vera's mission and what is its purpose for the Philippine society?
Yeah, when we founded Vera Files in 2008, we really the purpose really was to focus on in-depth reporting because we felt that was what was lacking in the Philippine landscape. So one is really investigative reporting because we want to have journalism in public service journalism, which is to hold those in power accountable and to give voice to the voiceless. We focus on mostly underreported issues like people with disabilities, environment, road safety, things, human trafficking, things like that. Since 2016, we have been we went into fact checking, which is a continuation actually of investigative reporting, and we track statements of public personalities, and if we find them to be erroneous, we debunk them with verified facts. And I think in this case, Duterte keeps us really very busy.
I can imagine. Is the Vera website accessible for all Philippines, and has it been accessible all the time, or was it shut down at any point?
There have been times when we were attacked by DDoS. Maybe many here are familiar with DDoS, when you're really attacked by millions of visitors until you become crippled and all that for a while. But I think we have remedied that. Some other agencies have been very helpful in helping us, make sure that we don't get attacked again. So. Yeah, but the pressure on us is not only on attacking our website, it's really threats to our lives. and to online and offline.
Absolutely. I mean, this is something Tanya has experienced herself in August 2020, more than 1 year ago. The long-serving Belarusian leader, Alexander Lukashenko, won a 6th term with supposedly over 80% of the vote. Now the international community knows that it was a rigged election, that it was voter fraud. What happened right after the election from your experience, from your perspective?
I would like to show, firstly, some materials, first pages of the newspapers. For the newspaper where I worked part-time during my work, it's very important for me to show it here. You will see right now, I would like to ask kindly to show the first picture, or maybe the first 6 pictures that I sent. You will see right now the first pages of the newspaper, the front lines of the newspaper where I worked. When I finished my work on the electoral district of the 9th of August, I went to the newsroom and saw that my colleagues, without knowing the results of the elections, they are already making up the first line of the first page. With a photo of the family that, so to say, made the right choice by choosing Lukashenko. And after we had the elections in Belarus on the first week, our newspaper, where I used to work, published different pictures that not corresponded to what happened on the streets of Minsk. And afterwards, when women went to the streets, when on the streets came people, citizens, and they were asking to show the truth from the official media, what is happening in the prisons in Belarus. I understood that I cannot find this compromise, and so I handed my resignation. I left the newspaper. It was the only right choice for me. And unfortunately, many of my colleagues didn't make the same choice, but it was a very pivotal time of my life when I understood what kind of choice is in front of a person, is in front of a journalist, and I have to take responsibility not only for my choices but also for what is happening on my working place.
Let's have a look at the pictures.
Yeah.
If possible.
Yeah.
I think until tech is ready, I would... Now tech is ready. Let's have a look at the pictures.
You see the front pages of the state-run newspaper. The whole world saw what happened in Belarus after the election. I saw it with my own eyes. And you can just go from the first photo to the others till the end. When people marched on the streets, my newspaper published such photos, such pictures. For example, a girl is picking up the melons. It's something. It's like an island with peace on this, where nothing happens, nothing bad happens. And I think that not only those who were trying to avoid demonstrations made actually bad choices, but also those who published about it. It's in the long term we see the damage from it, which is bigger or maybe equal to those people who tried to suppress the demonstrations after the elections was stolen.
Excuse me. It's truly unbelievable. I mean, you said all the world has seen what was happening on the streets of Minsk, for example, but now we see beautiful propaganda images. You were ordered, or your duty was to take pictures of the demonstrations, of the pro-regime demonstrations. You were ordered by the newspaper, but then you decided you have to show the truth. What did you see, and where did you publish those images?
After I saw that in my newspaper, my colleagues are publishing the first pages with the portrait of Lukashenko without knowing about the results of the election. With different colleagues, we tried to convince them that it's not possible for us to act like this. It was more or less a small revolution in our own newspaper on the inside. And after a couple of days after the end of election, we published. I think it's a point of pride for me and for my colleagues, because it was a very big achievement for the state newspaper. When me and my colleagues convinced the main editor to publish the opinion of journalists that we are against violence, we are against attacks on our colleagues. We ask the regime to stop it. And now my colleagues are persecuted for those announcements in media. And when I went to the streets and did the documentary, which we published, a couple of them on the website of our newspaper, then chief editor was let go, and we got another one who was pro-regime, and we had to publish all the. We had to take off all the documentaries from our website. And I understand how difficult it was for my other colleagues to go away, because they have families, they have their lives. I don't want to blame anybody, but I understand how difficult it is for them to work there. But I still am asking myself, how can you stay when everybody knows that it's fake? It's something really bad that is not only is done by this person.
Absolutely. How do you think you can influence the politics in Belarus from Germany? Do you have more power being an exiled journalist and being on panels like this than staying in your own country?
I'm really happy that I have no power. All that I can do is work as a journalist, to do my job, follow my ethical principles. And after leaving my working place, before moving to Germany, thanks to the association, I produced a history, a little story about such people, because it was at some point an awakening of Belarus. They awakened as one people, and it was very important that it happened after those elections. And many citizens, not only journalists, but the workers of different social groups, doctors, they left their workplaces, or maybe they were let go because of their opinion. And I think that right now in the year 21, it's the most important to air these stories, to publish them. This is all that I can do.
Absolutely. Ellen, in almost half a year, presidential elections are going to happen in the Philippines as well.
Yes, May. Yeah, we're going to have an elections in May.
Do you fear a similar situation in the Philippines, like a situation Tanya has experienced in Belarus, that the regime wants to cling to power, whatever it takes?
Duterte is not allowed by the Constitution to run again. So, we're very sure that he will try to hold on to power through other means, like his daughter is until November 15. There's still the what you call that, persons who are interested to run for president can still file their certificates of candidacy. So there are still talks that that the daughter, who is a mayor now in the city of where Duterte, the bailiwick of Duterte, which is Davao City, may run because Duterte is facing charges of crime against humanity before the International Criminal Court, ICC, in The Hague. So it is important that the next president, it is important for Duterte that the next president is sympathetic to him, to protect him from,
persecution and prosecution.
Prosecution, not only by the ICC, but also by Philippine courts.
Yeah.
So we expect him to use all his powers to be able to stay in power. But I think the Filipino people are not making it easy for Duterte to do that.
You are both defenders of truth. Tanya, through your pictures, and you through your work as a fact checker, as a journalist. You have been attacked by the regimes. You have been attacked by the supporters of Duterte or supporters of Lukashenko. In the eyes of those people, you are the enemy. You are the enemy of the people. You spread fake news. What are your personal experiences, Tanya? How have you been personally attacked?
No, I didn't get personal threats, as, for example, happened to my colleagues who unfortunately are in prison right now. I managed to go away beforehand, and thankfully I managed to do it before it happened. And right now, everybody, every journalist, it doesn't matter if it's a journalist or simple citizen who says his opinion openly is being persecuted. And we see what happened to Kristina Timanovska, the athlete who had to ask to go into hiding. What happened to Roman Protasevich, and in Belarus. My mother is still living there, and for everything that I say, I have to keep in mind what will be the consequence. Because after we left the newspaper and we managed to move this small revolution on the inside of the newspaper, we instantly became the visit of an ideologist. And this woman was talking to us. She was saying, we don't know that somebody is moving our hand, that an orange revelation will also get us, and we are just puppets in the hands of some puppeteer. And afterwards, when we left, we, as we know now, made the list, and we know that the people on this list are being persecuted now. They get visitors, and just a short time ago, I thought that half of my colleagues is in prison, half of my colleagues had to leave the country, and we have to think about it.
Absolutely. You have to be very careful what you say in regard to your family, which is still in Belarus. I can imagine how difficult that is for you. Ellen, for you, I mean, you've experienced two regimes, you have experienced phases of democratic developments in your country. What are your personal experiences of harassment? What did you have to endure?
Duterte has accused me of masterminding attempts movement to oust him, which is really ridiculous. His office presented he called it a matrix, where all the I was in the middle and I was supposed to be coordinating oust Duterte movement, and it was carried by sympathetic newspapers sympathetic to him. One, it's ridiculous, and because he's coming from the president, his followers, of course, took the cue and attacked us both online and offline. We would get calls, threatening us and asking us, why are you attacking Duterte and all of that. So we have been visited in our office by plainclothes men. It's not the online attacks. It's not fun, when you open your emails and you have at least 30, 30 to more than 30 curses, cursing you, calling you names and all that. It's not fun, just removing those, just removing them. It's really very stressful, because I cannot, like me personally, we don't moderate, we don't engage in trolls, no? Yeah. But we cannot allow insults and vulgarity to be on our. Duterte himself he's a very vulgar person. She has called me names, but we have decided. Our policy was that we don't go low, to his level. If they aim low, you go high. Yes, that's thanks to Michelle Obama. Absolutely. Yeah. But it's not. Well, he called me a prostitute. It's not. It's not pleasant to be called that name. And we. But we have. We have to fight back. Yeah. So. But this is online. This is something you can delete with a click. Yeah, but you have been visited as well. Yes, Duterte said it, in an interview when he called me when he called me names, and all that. And of course, it's carried by, if a president speaks, it's carried by all media, and and all that. So it's not fun to be. Even if you want to ignore him, you don't allow him to call you names like that, right? So, but online we get all sorts of threats, and the vulgarity that that are directed to us. So it's just deleting those threats and those curses every morning is already stressful. So there was even a time when we felt that our office was compromised. The security-wise, we had to work from a safe house for a while. Those are things that we had to put up with under Duterte. And of course, part of that is we have to undergo training, both about our legal rights, when you are arrested, what do you do? It's just like deja vu. During the time of Marcos, that was what we were doing. We are always told, keep always names of the lawyers on hand, because if you're arrested, you have to call. What you should do when you're arrested, when you are visited. When you are visited by by authorities in your homes, or when you are in the street and you're arrested, you have to know all these things, keeping alive. And it's strange, we are in a democratic country. Why should that be our worry, So, but we have to undergo again another training on staying alive, which is weird. It's really weird. Yeah, absolutely. It's really weird. So we had to go through all the training again of our legal rights, and also security training. So, and especially for the young reporters in our office, I'm worried about them, because many of them are fresh out of college. They have never they never experienced martial law, and I'm worried about the effect of this kind of harassment on them. But so far, they have been coping well.
They've been steadfast. I mean, both of you have experienced harassment, direct or indirect, and you're afraid of your family. You have experienced it firsthand. What drives you? What gets you up in the morning and still continue to work as a journalist and not say, it's not for me anymore, let others do it, I'm not risking my own life for this cause?
There's no alternative for us. It's because we have to preserve democracy. I cannot imagine a life under not a democratic country, and and media is part of democracy, right? And we have to remember also, like, it's not only us. Like when Duterte, the reason, like when we criticize Duterte's war on drugs, killing more than 30,000 people, we think like 30,000 is not just numbers, There are people, like 30,000, more than 30,000 killed. That means you have 30,000 widows.
30,000 families.
And more than children being deprived of their fathers. And in many cases, it's not only widows, because even the wives sometimes, there have been cases when both the husband and the wife have been killed. So there are orphans. These are people, and you cannot allow someone who is empowered to do these things. I mean, there's really no alternative for us.
What about you, Tanya? You're from a different generation. You've got your whole life in front of you, but nonetheless, you decided to pursue your passion.
How to answer, but I think that Ellen shared this really close view, practical view. For me, it's more a philosophical question, because it's the goal of the person, of the human person, to pursue something. And I agree with Ellen, but I don't see any goal for my life other than to report about what's happening, inform people. Maybe my profession is more, although I wouldn't separate the photojournalist from journalist who writes the article. I think both forces work together, but for me, this is the goal of my existence, so to say. As Sisyphe, everybody is trying to pull the stone up the mountain. Even if it falls down, you still pull it.
What can we do as an international community, as media professionals across the world? How can we support your work?
Germany has been very supportive of us in the sense that, the foundation itself, the Hamburg Foundation for the Politically Persecuted, it's already a huge help to us. The fact that they have given us refuge to be able for us to do our job safe from
persecution.
Yes, I think I felt that the shelter that the foundation has given me has strengthened me, and I think will make me will make me do my job better, because I will be going back to the Philippines soon, preparing for the elections, and I feel that the break that the foundation has given me is such a huge help. Aside from that, the European Union has been very vocal in putting pressure on Duterte, speaking out against human rights violations of Duterte. They have been, I think, more than any other countries, the European Union has been very critical of Duterte's human rights records. Yeah. And we would like them to continue doing that, because it has an effect, even if Duterte, for all his bravado says, that he doesn't care about what other countries say and, bats for non-intervention. It affects him. And I think this should not stop. This should continue pressuring Duterte, to do what is right.
I've got a further question. How should we deal with dictators like Lukashenko, Duterte? We usually tend to isolate those men, demonize them, put sanctions on them, write against them, support the opposition. But don't you think that all these measures taken by the West decrease the situation of the people in the country? That they rather, in a way, trigger those dictators to go further and increase their measures of hardship?
In the Philippines, I don't sanctions. We don't encourage sanctions because it's the people who suffer. But criticisms, I think in the Philippines, that does not. It affects Duterte in a way that he is. I think the effect is really for something good for the people because it makes him a little more careful. Yeah. So and it's not only on Duterte, but the support that especially the European Union gives to sectors who are who uphold democracy and human rights. I think that's very admirable and very much welcome.
How do you think about it, Tanya? I mean, we call Lukashenko the last dictator of Europe. He's been in every newspaper painted as the strong man of Belarus. How do you think does it affect him? Is he increasing the sanctions against his own people by news like that from foreign countries?
Honestly, I don't know how what the right answer would be, and especially when I'm here in Germany. How can I speak about the question of sanctions and whether they are useful? Because I don't feel the influence of the sanctions right now. Only the people who live in the country feel the sanctions. Otherwise, I understand that without sacrifice, you cannot achieve something. The sacrifice is sometimes small or sometimes they are big. And really, the association of the European Union and the whole civil population is helping. But I think that we have to deal with it by ourselves in our country. How can we deal with it? I don't know. But and also because of me thinking about what happened in October. Arman Bondarenko died. He was killed only because he went outside to ask the policemen why they are cutting down of the ribbons of the symbols that are prohibited in Belarus, and he lost his life. And I can only imagine what his mother is thinking. Would she be right now pro change or not? Those social questions don't have only one right or correct answer. And I think that Lukashenko is liked or disliked, and he does not care as a dictator, being called the dictator. And his press secretary said it's our Belarusian brand. I think it's absolutely absurd. But I repeat, not only Lukashenko is doing this, and just to accumulate it in one person is impossible. We have to think together. How can we manage the situation? How can we go further?
Ellen, your fellow countrywoman, Maria Ressa, recently received the Nobel Peace Prize for her journalistic work. How did that prize and the publicity the prize got, how did that affect your work?
I think the Nobel Prize award on Maria Ressa only affirms the situation that journalists in the Philippines face, which is, you know, the difficult and the dangerous environment that journalists in the Philippines have to deal with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Question for both of you: if all local media, Belarusian local media, Philippine local media, are subject to censorship and harassment by the regimes, we tend to look to social media and alternative forms of media. Do you see social media, especially Facebook, as a beacon of hope for your work, or does it rather underline and support the flames of hatred and, put it bluntly, is it something positive or something negative for your cause?
Our group, Verifiles, is one of the third-party fact-checker of Facebook in the Philippines. So we have a partnership with Facebook. I think Facebook has to be more proactive, and as a partner of Facebook, we bring out, we have regular consultations with them, and we bring out what we feel are the things that they should be doing more. But to me, Facebook is just a tool. It depends on how you use it. It has its good, and it has also its bad side. So it's really up for us to use it wisely for the benefit of our fellow men. In the Philippines, the Duterte's camp, even way back in 2016, was really able to utilize Facebook and other social media to promote his candidacy and even his presidency. So it's a challenge to other political camps to
use the same tools.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
How about is it with your work, Tanya? Do you use social media to spread your message, to show your pictures, to paint a different picture of the situation in Belarus?
Yes, I agree. It's a good instrument, and journalism is also something that will change as any other profession. But I think that this base, this foundation that we are making will not change. It doesn't matter which instrument you use in media to broadcast the news. Journalism has to keep being journalism in the original version, because otherwise we see what happens when this version mutates.
Absolutely. Let me thank you from the bottom of my heart, Ellen and Tanya, for being here at Medientage München. And let me also finish with a quote from Walter Lippmann. The press does not tell us what to think. It tells us what to think about. I think the last 45 minutes gives us a lot food to talk about. Thank you very much for your thought-provoking input.
Thank you also very much for having us here.
And I just got the information, sehr gerne, and I got the information that we have 2 additional videos which we would like to show. Tanya, is this something you would like to share with us?
I thought that we talked about everything.
Okay.
Maybe it won't be the
necessary
right choice anymore.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, the audience on your screens wherever you are, and here at the IMAX Theater in Munich. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Tanya. Great talking to you.
Yes. Thank you again.
Спасибо.